Hi, everyone, and welcome to day 3. I can't believe we've gone through 3 days, but here we are, and we are on this final run through for the How to Start Homeschooling with the Old Schoolhouse. And I'm so glad that you are here with us. And I hope that you are taking notes and that you are learning a lot and that you're feeling more confident about making your decision to homeschool. So, as you can see on the screen, our agenda today includes trusting in God for this journey, finding your community, remembering your why, and setting your goals, and of course, avoiding common homeschool mistakes. So, these are going to be some great conversations coming up, and we will always have time for the Q&A at the end, and we do have some giveaways, so stay tuned for that at the end. And so I'm going to jump right into session 1, which is Trust in God. And I'm going to invite Deborah Wooler, who is our senior editor at the Old Schoolhouse magazine. And just so that you know, you can access the digital magazine at any time at tosmagazine.com, or you can download the free app at tosapps.com. It is full of great resources. We will be mentioning, talking about that a little bit more throughout the day, of course. But Deborah, I'm going to say welcome, and why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Oh, thanks for having me, Christine. I have been listening the last 2 days, and it has been wonderful. All of the content has just been amazing. So thank you for putting this together. A little about me. I have 8 children, and we have been homeschooling, I say, for 32 years because I count
Wow.
the birth of our firstborn son as the first day of homeschooling. So he's 32 this year.
Wow.
So we have been around the homeschool block for a bit, and we've graduated 7 of those 8 children from our little homeschool. And I have a high schooler who is going into 10th grade this year, who is our last one. So
Wow.
it's been a journey. And then I have been with the Old Schoolhouse for 20 of those years. And so I've enjoyed every minute of that.
Awesome. Awesome. And yeah, Deborah is also the author of one of the Bible reading plans on YouVersion. Help me get the name right. It's
called Homeschool Moms Teach the Psalms.
right.
Sort of a little rhyme there. Homeschool Moms Teach the Psalms. And there's 4 plans. I'm working on the 5th plan right now, but we go through about anywhere from 5 to 7 Psalms in each plan. And there's activities for the kids to do, or discussion questions or whatever. That there's a little devotion for you, and then a little bit you can do with the kids as well.
And they're short and sweet. I've done a few of them. I haven't got through all of them yet, but they're short and sweet, and they're perfect for the homeschool mom who's always on the go. So definitely check that out if you wanted. If you were looking for something new to add to your reading plan, that is something that you can check out. So we wanted to, first of all, the theme for the day is how to stay on track. So you've made your decision to homeschool. You've got your resources to get started, and so now we want to make sure that you stay on track, because you may have caught on through some of the conversations over the last 2 days that, ups and downs happen, and, life happens. There's situations that come along, and then it interrupts your homeschooling. And it takes a bit of concentration to get back on track and stick with the plans that you made. And so Deborah's here to help us do that, because obviously she's got some experience in this area.
Yes, you can say I'm old now. So
I wasn't going to say those words.
I'm an older woman, and have, I'm not an expert by any means, but I have had a little bit of experience. So I love to share that. And today we're talking about trusting in God, and you kind of wonder, well, how does that, relate to keeping on track with your homeschooling? But really, I think that's the foundation of all that we do in our home education journey, is trusting in God. It sounds like, just a pithy little statement that everybody just says, when they don't know what to say, they just say, oh, trust in God, right?
Mhm.
Well, really, we are going to hopefully see the depth of what that means and how it relates to homeschooling and, staying on track. And so when I look at the beginning of my homeschool year this year with my son who's going into 10th grade, even after all these years of graduating kids and homeschooling this long, I'm like, okay, I have 3 years left with this child and I need to stay on track. And
Mhm.
how am I going to do that? And what does the future look like? And start to freak out a little bit because, it's a whole new child, a whole new set of situations, a whole new
Yeah.
learning style. It's all different. And so every year I start at the beginning of the year and I look ahead and I can really easily be intimidated by my lack of ability, to make sure that this year will be successful, because I can't see what is ahead. I can't
It's
in any
true.
way see what's ahead. And so I can wonder about the outcome of their education and go, well, will I really be able to prepare this child for their future? Whatever that may be. So this is why we need to trust in God,
Mhm.
fully rely on God, because obviously we see nothing in the future. We don't see where our kids are going to be. We don't see what they're going to be doing for the most part. And we don't know what's going to happen in our own life tomorrow. And
Right.
so we have to fully rely on God for each moment. And so when I'm looking at the beginning of the year and realizing that I'm homeschooling blindfolded is what I call it. We all are homeschooling blindfolded, especially if you're new to homeschooling, you really feel like that. You really feel like, where am I going? What am I doing? What's in front of me? And, you need someone to guide you places because you can't see. And that is exactly the place where we need to fully rely on God for
That's right.
everything that we're doing in our homeschooling. So, it might feel like blind faith, but really I want to remind you that we have substance behind that faith, and that is God himself, right? So if he himself is for us and for this thing called home education, and he is for it, then we're not putting our faith in our own abilities. We are just obedient to what God has called us to do. And then
Mhm.
he fills in all the gaps, all the details. He brings all the situations in our path for each child. And I have to constantly remind myself of that because, I get in the way. My own thinking gets in the way and I start to get anxious. Um,
It's true. Yeah.
so, and we all do, don't we? We kind
Yeah.
of get anxious about that. So if we are putting our faith in our own abilities, they might fail, right? But if our faith and trust is in God, who is the Almighty One, he never fails. And so trusting God in our homeschooling is really believing that the end result will be good because God is
Mhm.
behind it.
Yeah.
So we just obediently every day walk forward, even when we don't see the end result. So today, what do we do today? Today, we just walk in obedience by faith. That's what matters. Homeschooling is just one way in which we walk by faith with fully trusting in God. So,
Mhm.
um, and it is a big way because we want to know the outcome. We want to know, is this thing going to work? Is this experiment I'm doing going to end up okay?
Yeah.
But it's really, again, not our own abilities that we should put our trust in, or even our lack of ability, that we should put so much, like fear in. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. No, we just walk forward in obedience to what God has commanded us to do, and we will see the results. Uh, that God is good. God is in the future. He's already there. He knows what's going to
Yeah.
happen, right? He knows our kids too, and he knows what they need. We don't even know what they need for their future as far as,
It's true. Yeah.
physical things and where they're actually going to be either working or, are they going to be in a career? Are they going to be in college? Are they going to be in a ministry? Are they going to be married? We don't know any of those things. Are they going to be persecuted? Are
That's
they
right.
going to be
Yeah.
martyred? We
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
And so we, by faith, just obey God today and walk forward in what he's called us to do, right? Even without seeing the end result. That is God's doing. So really, it's a Hebrews 11 kind of trusting in God, where if you
Mm-hmm.
look at that hall of faith in Hebrews 11, all those men and women of God were trusting in God, that God would fulfill the promise that he had given them, even if they never saw it in their lifetime, that
Mm-hmm.
God was going to do what he was going to do, that without even seeing any results, they just moved forward in faith. So like Abraham. So Abraham, it talks about
And
Abraham in Hebrews
yeah.
11. He said he was called to go out in a place which he should after receive as an inheritance, and he obeyed and he went out, not knowing where he went. So he just picked up and started walking. And
Yeah.
so that's a really good picture for our homeschool, right? To just pick up, start walking, and God will give us our inheritance that he has already planned to do. This is God's plan. He's doing it all. We're just walking in obedience. So, so like, what about me? Can I say, or can God say, okay, by faith, Deborah homeschooled her children and trained them in righteousness. She was obedient to God's commands and she trusted God's wisdom, and she received God's inheritance. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
will that be said of me in God's hall of
Mm,
faith? I would love that to be said. And
me
so in
too.
order for that to happen, we need to trust in God, right?
It's true.
It's
Yeah.
not just a little statement that gets overused. It's the deep, it's the deep-hearted Christian life
Yeah.
that we trust in God. So when we're homeschooling, it can look like we're not knowing where we're going because we don't know exactly where we're going with each child, but we judge him who promised as faithful. And so then we're unafraid of other people's thoughts and feelings about it. We're unafraid of the rulers of this world who may come against us. We're unafraid of the future because God is there already. And so trusting God's leadership over man's leadership, of course, and over our own leadership, we're going to be trusting his wisdom over our own wisdom, or over man's wisdom, which is, considered foolishness. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just a walk of faith. This whole homeschool journey is a foundation of trusting in God because we don't have that wisdom.
That's right.
So we really need to stay close to the one who does.
Yeah.
And, whether we even see that end result or whether it turns out to be the way we wanted it to be or not, we need to purpose to obey today.
Mm-hmm.
That's our part. That's the only part we have to play, is to obey today. And, that's what we tell our kids too, right? Obey. Just
Yep.
listen and obey. Trust and obey. There's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust
Just
and
trust and
obey.
obey. That's right. That's right.
That's right. So,
We
whether
have
we're
to do it one day at a time, and I think that's what it is. That some of the fear of trying to see the end result when we know we can't, unless by some miracle God decides to show us what that is. But for most of us, we don't know, and so we have to take it one day at a time, and that has been one of the songs that I sing. One
Mhm.
day at a time, sweet Jesus, because and that's my reminder, because when the ups and downs come, it, every day is a new day, and so we have to take it one step at a time, one day at a time, and
Mhm.
every day we ask for that wisdom, we trust and we lean on him, and when we're leaning on him, it's we lean less on our own strength, so which
Mhm.
is exactly what you said. We can't rely on our own strength because we will fail. We get tired. Moms can tell you, whether you're homeschooling or not, we get tired,
Mhm.
and so we need that supernatural strength to keep
Mhm.
going, to keep loving on our kids, and
Mhm.
to keep on the path that he's called us to.
Mhm. And the beautiful thing about that, Christine, is that our children are watching us on this path of obedience and trust.
Right.
And so when they see dad and mom trusting God, when they see dad and mom being obedient to God's commands, this is what they would want for themselves. This is the path that that we are making for them, that they would walk in, as they watch us. So that's the beautiful part, that it's a generational thing, that as we trust God and as we fully rely on God and as we obey his commands, though we may never see that reward in our own lifetime, we just know that God will reward those who diligently seek him. And so, this is something that we teach our kids too, that God is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. He rewards, and that he doesn't just reward half-heartedness. Everybody doesn't get the trophy like they do now. No, he rewards those who diligently, that means day by day by day, continuously, with all their heart, seeking God. He rewards that. And you know how we love to see our kids get those trophies. We love to see our kids like rewarded for their efforts. They get the certificate, or they get, maybe they've performed something for someone and they get something for that. We love to see our kids rewarded, and we love to see them get their diploma at the end of all this, right? We're like, yes. But God even more so loves that. And he loves to reward those who diligently seek him. And as we're doing that, our kids are watching us and they're saying, oh, where does mom go when she's upset and she's anxious and she's worried? Where does she go when she's in pain? Or, where does she go when she needs something or there's a lack? Where does mom go? And they learn this lifestyle of diligently seeking God. And so that is, a generational thing that they have in their minds as they leave our home. What is that they remember about their home? What is it? We always remember, we have a voice in our head. We sound like our mom sometimes when we're talking to our kids, because we have her voice in our head. Well, what is the voice we're leaving for our kids in their heads? What are they hearing? What are they seeing? So that's what, that is trusting in God on a daily basis, is how we walk that out in front of them. And then we just take all those, practically, we just take all those in-between moments, like you were talking about, those in-between moments that we teach our children to seek God about. Okay, they've come to you about a problem they have with a sibling. We're going to seek God. We're going to seek God's word. We're going to pray. Okay, they come to you with, their feelings are hurt from a friend. We're going to seek God. We're going to pray. They come to you because they want something they don't have. We're going to seek God. We're going to diligently seek what he would want for us. So it's all these in-between moments, besides the academics, that we're going to be training them for their future, for whatever their future holds, because these are the things that are going to get them through. So, we definitely want it to be said, like, of our families and our children, that we believed God. We believed God, that we obeyed him. We didn't lose faith. I'm thinking of it in chapter 11 of Hebrews. It goes on to say that instead of losing faith, rather they did this. It says, who through faith subdued kingdoms, wrought righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the violence of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, out of weakness were made strong, waxed valiant in fight, turned to flight the armies of the enemies. This is what we want for our kids. We want them successful in that way, right? Yes, we want them to have a good career. We want them to be able to go to college if they want to do that. If the Lord is, calling them to that, we want them in some kind of ministry. What we really want for them is that they can just be these strong warriors of God for the future that they are going to be in, right?
It's
so
true.
That is the reward for trusting in God on a daily basis, is seeing that God is creating these strong warriors for the future.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, many people will have different reasons for homeschooling, and but this is one of mine. I want my children to be warriors for the kingdom, and they can't get the training anywhere else. It has to happen at home. So it's going to make sense at the end when we push through, and
Right. That's right. And so even though our eyes might be blind to the future, our eyes can be doing something. They can be looking to Christ. They can be looking at him. When we see how big he is, then all of these things in our life become very little. It says, "Oh, magnify the Lord with me. Let us exalt his name together." So when we make him big, when we magnify him, all the other stuff is just really tiny and is just, insignificant as we make him big. And we don't have to worry about tomorrow. And this is the glorious thing about trusting in God. We do not have to worry about tomorrow.
Yeah.
Lesson plans, we need those. Grades, assignments, colleges, careers, we're working on it. But we do not have to worry about tomorrow. Even illnesses or trials that come our way, we don't have to worry about tomorrow because God is already there.
Oh, I think we lost Deborah for a little bit there. Let's see if she comes back. Okay, so I think we'll see if Deborah can come back. But this is such great words of wisdom to follow, and to really lean on God through this process. We firmly believe that we can't do it all without the help of our Creator, of our Heavenly Father. And so I hope you're taking these to heart. And let me just see. And yes, Sheila, that was a great statement to end with. We'll invite her to come back on if she makes it back. I know weather-wise, we're having lots of storms all over the place. So the joys of technology. But we can, if Heidi is ready, we can move on to session 2. We're about that time anyway. And so I'll invite Heidi to join me.
Hi there.
Hi, Heidi.
That was
welcome.
A wonderful message from Deborah.
Yes, and it's such a great reminder. Even for those of us who have been homeschooling for a while, we always need that reminder to just take a moment, take a breath, and just focus on what really matters, and who we really get our strength from. So
Absolutely.
So I'll let you introduce yourself, and then we will move on to session 2, which is going to be about finding your homeschool community.
Wonderful. Well, I'm ready. Would you be able to start my slideshow?
Yes, I can.
All right.
Ooh. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Do you want it full screen, or are you good like
full
this?
screen would be great.
Okay, perfect.
You can see it a little better.
There you go.
All right. Well, I'm Heidi Mosier. I'm here to talk about homeschool community with you today, which is a very meaningful and important topic and so dear to my heart. So you can go ahead and flip to the second slide. You're at the right webinar on homeschooling. I promise this is not a webinar on puppies, but I wanted to share with you what my daughter brought home just yesterday. This is Doodle. She's a puppy my 12-year-old gets to raise for about a year. Doodle will eventually be an assistance dog, and my daughter is supposed to teach Doodle basic obedience skills. Then Doodle will go through more advanced training and then custom training eventually, and she'll live with someone with a disability to enhance that person's independence and quality of life. So training Doodle after 24 hours already is quite an adventure. Especially, you're not going to believe this, we've never had a dog before. So we are a family of 6, and we're thrilled to have this little puppy with us. We're dedicated to training her and giving her the best. We're committed, but we need to support each other. It's our daughter's responsibility. She's our youngest, and she knows what she's getting into somewhat, in theory anyway. But my husband and I each had to take turns taking the puppy out at night. The older kids are all taking little shifts throughout the day, and we all have to work together to train this puppy. We're figuring this puppy raising thing out together as a family. But we need more support than just each other. The organization we're puppy raising for has online groups and classes. They have literature, videos, vet access, and a community, and everything we need to raise this little puppy. So thankfully, we are not alone, which is why I included her as part of my slideshow today. We feel surrounded and supported as we take on this huge responsibility of raising an assistance dog. And it's just a little bit like undertaking homeschooling, isn't it? Homeschooling is a wonderful and welcome yet enormous task, much bigger than raising a puppy. We have an end goal in mind, but encouragement and ideas and information along the way are all going to help us raise our homeschooled children. So the Old Schoolhouse has been around for over 2 decades, and we want to walk alongside you as you homeschool. We often hear about community and how important it is for our kids to have friends and community and all that. Well, moms, we need it too. Teachers at school have a teacher's lounge. You might remember walking by one if you went to school as a child and hearing the teachers interact inside. As homeschool moms, we need somewhat of a teacher's lounge too, where we can uplift each other, share tips and tricks, and find strength, as in the presentation we just heard from Deborah Wooler. So we're all homeschoolers here at the Old Schoolhouse, and we want to enfold you into our homeschool community. I've been enfolded by the Old Schoolhouse even before I started working here, which was just a couple years ago. But I've been gleaning from the wisdom that other moms have shared through the Old Schoolhouse for years and years and years. And we have so much we want to share with you. Could you flip the slide, please? So I'm still homeschooling after 15 years. And even with 2 graduates, I'm still in need of community as I homeschool my youngest 2. I have a middle schooler and a high schooler left. So about 5 years to go. My homeschool community has been local, but also virtual. God provided a community in both ways for me. So my first introduction to the Old Schoolhouse was through the Homeschool Minute. When I started homeschooling, I was so blessed to have both a sister and a sister-in-law who were already homeschooling locally. They helped me get started with what to teach, curriculum, books to consider, area groups to join, etc. I realized that was a unique situation. Not everybody has that. Maybe the Lord set it up that way because he knew I would need a lot of handholding or something. There was one year when my family and my sister's family, both homeschooling families, saw each other about 4 or 5 times a week at various homeschool activities. It was amazing. We just treasure that year. One of our favorite ways to get together was through a Lego club we formed between our families. Through some of those activities that my sister and sister-in-law suggested, I connected with a few other women with children about the same age. We formed a field trip group and met once a month for several years. We held holiday-themed parties, show and tell, many field trips together. I kept my little homeschool pretty busy, and sometimes I'd get a little burned out. Maybe you do too. That's where TOS entered my life. Somehow I began receiving the Homeschool Minute, which came to my email inbox every Wednesday morning. And that happened to be my fullest day of outside activities. And I was always a little tired before even leaving the house. Honestly, reading what those other homeschooling moms shared was often exactly what I needed for whatever was challenging me at that moment. I hope you've had some experiences like that too. It's so amazing just to see God's care for you by providing just what you need at the time you need it. So the Homeschool Minute would often have me in tears because it made me realize that someone else had experienced something similar. It made me feel that whatever I was going through was to be expected, or just a phase, or maybe I'd find some new ideas to try for spelling or math or any and everything. I always looked forward to that brief little read on Wednesday mornings. It was sort of like a refill midweek and helped me carry on. So the very first thing I always tell other homeschool moms to do is sign up for the Homeschool Minute. You can access the Homeschool Minute on our TOS app now too. And I'll tell you more about the app in just a minute. But whatever you do, sign up for it or look for it on the app. You can even go through the THM archives for more timeless homeschool encouragement. And I see that Kristen's putting up some links in the chat so you can figure out how to get to the Homeschool Minute and make it part of your weekly homeschool community. Next slide, please. There's a beautiful homeschool community here to surround you at TOS. One of my favorite things we have to share with you, other than the Homeschool Minute, is our new podcast. It's called the Hey Mama Homeschool Show. We launched it earlier this year as another way to surround homeschooling moms everywhere. Each episode is about 30 minutes or less, so they're timed nicely for homeschool moms. You can listen while you're folding laundry or prepping a meal, or maybe while you're driving kids to activities. It's all very kid-friendly, faith-filled content. We release a new episode every Monday. You can go ahead and binge listen if you have time at homeschoolshow.com, or just pick an episode there with a topic that you need to hear more on. Look at some of the great podcast topics we've already released. When Math Brings Tears, the socialization myth debunked. That's a good one, right? High school grads, teen rebels, and prodigals. You can expect new episodes every Monday. We lovingly put together show notes for every episode of the Hey Mama Homeschool Show. They're full of connections to resources that TOS has to share on whatever the topic is for the day. Or if a host mentions curriculum or something that worked well in her own homeschool, you'll find those links too. The show notes can be found at homeschoolshow.com, and you can also listen to the episodes right there at homeschoolshow.com, or find them on Spotify or anywhere you get your podcasts. Next slide shows the hosts of the Hey Mama Homeschool Show. You may recognize some of them from today, actually. Deborah Wooler is one of our presenters, and Christine Weller. And I know Stephanie Morrison is joining us today. I believe Heather Vogler was probably part of this webinar earlier in the week too. You probably also recognize them from their articles in the Old Schoolhouse magazine, from conventions, from live streams, etc. They each present once a month. And from time to time, they'll invite one of our homeschool friends to join us, like the author of Spelling Power, for example. She'll be joining us for an upcoming episode hosted by Heather. If you want to find out more about any of these dear women, go ahead to homeschoolshow.com and you can find their bios. What I really love about this combination of hosts is that they're all at different stages of homeschooling. You heard Deborah earlier mention how many she's homeschooled already, and that she's kind of wrapping things up. Stephanie and Christine are both at a little different ages. They're both boy moms, which is kind of a fun perspective. And then Heather's got quite a range too. I think she has a little one up to high school. So these are wonderful women. I know them all well through work, and these are the kind of people you would love to surround yourself if they lived in your local area, since they don't just grab onto what they have to offer us virtually. You won't be sorry. Next slide, please. I just wanted to share some of our most popular episodes of the Hey Mama Homeschool Show. You can find them again at homeschoolshow.com. So teaching writing, is it always a challenge? That's been our most listened to one so far. Living books and good literature, that was a beautiful episode. It was an interview with Dr. Mark Hamby from Lamplighter. That's a wonderful one. Teachable moments, interruptions, or appointments. Remembering why we homeschool. How can we celebrate the homeschool mom? So hopefully you can find a favorite too, or keep listening every week. They're all my favorite. I just love them all. Next slide, please. These are some episodes you can look forward to over the next month. So Monday we have Bible, More Than a School Subject, which Stephanie will host. And then we'll have the next week, Should Preschoolers Be Homeschooled? And if I can add my 2 cents, preschool is the best. Have fun with that. So I imagine the answer is yes. After that, we'll have Will My Child Always Struggle with Spelling? I wish I could have heard that episode about 10 years ago and know that I would have been okay. Next, we have Art and Photography, which Deborah will host. And then another important topic, When Mamas Cry, which Stephanie will host. And then we have them planned all through the rest of the year too. And they're wonderful topics. So please tune in, homeschoolshow.com. Next slide, please. Homeschooling Finds is another newer addition to the Old Schoolhouse. So this can be part of your homeschool community if you look at it as tapping into the knowledge and experience of many homeschooling moms who have tried out different curriculums, investigated it, thoroughly examined it, used it, and now they share their evaluations. So it's something really new and exciting from the Old Schoolhouse. We're all homeschoolers here, and we love connecting the homeschool family. So we thank our friends from the former Homeschool Review crew for providing years of homeschool product evaluations. But keep watching as friends old and new add more and more evaluations to homeschoolingfinds.com. We just love spreading the word about homeschool products we found that may serve other families well. Homeschoolingfinds.com can be your destination for reliable information on products and resources you can use in your own homeschool. Next slide, please. We'll look at some of these evaluation categories that you can find on homeschoolingfinds.com. So if you were to tap on math or history or electives, you would find dozens and dozens, maybe even hundreds of evaluations in each category. There's even a section on products and things just for parents. So check those out. Some of them go back quite a few years, but as you'll find as a theme with homeschooling, a lot of things are just timeless. Timeless information, things that have worked well for people for years and years and years. So check those out. You can also find articles there, posted about weekly. If you can look at the bottom there, there's one on Before You Begin, homeschool planning, what approach to take, preparing for high school, etc. So check out Homeschooling Finds and make that part of your homeschool community. Next slide, please. Here's another thing that's very exciting and will be very useful to moms. You can actually access every issue of the Old Schoolhouse magazine right on your phone or on your computer. You can get the TOS app, visit tosapps.com, and that directs you to the App Store and Google Play. This is just a wonderful tool to ensure that you don't feel alone as you homeschool. So through the TOS app, you can search for articles. You can type in a topic like, let's say, dyslexia or working while homeschooling, something like that. And you will find a whole bunch of articles to tap into and just glean from other homeschool moms who have experienced things you've experienced or are dealing with right now. And they will, through their words, walk you through and guide you through whatever you need encouragement in. Next slide, please. So most of the rest of these things that I'm going to talk about can be found at theoldschoolhouse.com. I'm sorry, my screenshot here got a little bit blurry, but if you just can type in theoldschoolhouse.com, and there are lots of resources here There's information about the THM, all kinds of things. Homeschool College Directory, which we'll talk about in a minute. The homeschool show, try homeschooling, etc. So go ahead and check that out. And then we'll go to the next slide, and I'm going to show you one of the things you can check out here is the digital magazine library. So this is going to be very similar to what you can find on the TOS app. They're both wonderful. I use them both a lot. I love having the app because I can carry it with me. So maybe you have a vacation planned yet this summer and you have a few minutes to catch a little bit of homeschool reading to prep for the new year. Or maybe once the new year starts, you're sitting in the parking lot with some quiet time while you're waiting for your kids at their activities and you've got just enough time for an article, or something's heavy on your heart and you need to investigate how other moms handled certain things. So go ahead and tap into those communities, the community that we have available to you through TOS, through all those articles. So again, these are timeless homeschool helps that you'll find. You can really think of reading all these articles and accessing them as part of a huge community of homeschoolers. They'll help you surround yourself with others who will uplift you as you homeschool. Sometimes in the article will include things written by homeschool grads, and I love those. They're so inspiring to me because I think, okay, they did it, I can do it too, and look how nice so-and-so turned out. So that gives you a lot of hope. It's very encouraging. So the Old Schoolhouse magazine is available digitally every quarter. The next one will come out early September. And the latest issue is always available to read for free here in the digital magazine library or at tosapps.com. You can access the app for that as well. Let's look at the next slide a minute. This is what will show up when you access the digital magazine library. The app looks pretty similar to this. You can see the one that says Chefs in the House there. That's our most recent, our current summer issue. And then we have years and years of past issues. So you can actually flip through a whole issue, or you can use the search bar up in the right-hand corner and type in a topic like homeschooling high school, or teaching writing, or whatever, teaching responsibility. And you will find things that will be very helpful. Or if there's an author you really appreciate, like Deborah Wooler, for example, you can search for an article by her. Just type in her name into the search bar, and you'll get tons of very helpful and meaningful, uplifting words from her, or from Gina Suarez, who does the Hey Mama column. That's always a blessing to read as well. And Gina also often will have something in the Homeschool Minute, and those are just beautiful things. So keep that as part of your community. I really hope you check these out. It's all free to access and readily available to support you as you homeschool. Let's check out the next one. Last summer, we dedicated an entire digital magazine supplement to the topic of homeschooling. You are not alone. Look at some of these article topics: organization, expectations, articles on preschool, middle school, and high school, foreign language, balancing work and homeschool, and more. And the whole point of the supplement was to let you know you are not alone. So you can find the entire supplement on the app and in the digital magazine library. Just look for this little owl on the cover. It was released last summer, like I said, but the content is timeless and helpful as you're working on your own back to school plans right now. Next slide, please. Here's a planner from the Old Schoolhouse that's designed just for homeschooling mamas like you. Since it's a wild world, we know you need a dependable place to keep it all together. So here it is. You'll turn to this planner again and again. So all the homeschoolers who were behind creating this planner made sure it's inviting and inspiring too. You can schedule lessons, record completed work, build budgets, and manage goals and chores. You can track everything from preschool progress to high school transcripts with specific pages for every stage. And my favorite part, one that speaks to our topic of homeschool community, is that we've included monthly devotions and journaling spaces to refresh your heart and focus on what's truly important. So don't miss those. You can pause once a month for sure and check those out, and hopefully you will feel supported all homeschool year long through this planner. Each detailed page will help you stay organized and motivated as you guide your children through their school days. You can download it. You can print as many pages as you need for any size homeschool family, and then you can start planning. I like to print mine. It's really a lovely planner. I've really enjoyed using it. Next slide, please. This is to let you know about homeschoolblogger.com. It's another source of community for you through the Old Schoolhouse. So I'll just quick read the slide. It's a little fuzzy. If you're looking for an online social network, maybe an alternative one, or you've always wanted to blog, the homeschoolblogger.com offers a decidedly Christian alternative for gathering with like-minded home educators to share the journey with one another. It's not only a free blogging platform, but also a social network for Christian homeschoolers. So there are groups you can join at Homeschool Blogger. There are blogs to read. You can start a blog there. So I'm not going to take too much time going over it, but please check out homeschoolblogger.com and see if that's a community you're looking for. We'd love to have you join us. You can ask and answer questions directly from other homeschoolers there. So it's really a neat place. Next slide is about homeschooling with heart. We have another blog opportunity. This one's just to read to help you feel supported in the homeschool community. We share articles on homeschooling written by moms who homeschool and know what your days are like. You can read what worked for them and use their ideas and just help you keep your heart in homeschooling. There's a sign up button. You can see that on the right side of the screen there, where you can start receiving it every week. And it's really a lovely use of time to read the blog. All right, the next slide just says another way you can connect with homeschoolers and with TOS is through conventions. I think the convention season is usually in the spring, early summer, but we do have a couple that will still be appearing at this year. Gina and Paul Suarez will be speaking at the Tri-State Convention. I believe it's in Liberty, South Carolina. That's about 2 weeks away. So we'll put something on Facebook about that and tell you more about it. And then Heather Vogler, I believe, she'll be at the Homesteaders of America Conference in Virginia in mid-October. So watch for us whenever you go to a homeschool convention, and we'll try to hit more of them in the future. And what fun to meet some of these people that you read their articles, and just an uplifting time to connect at conventions. Next slide, please. We hope you're blessed to live near homeschoolers like I was, and also blessed by all the online ways the whole Old Schoolhouse can support you and make you feel part of a community. If you would like to connect with a local support group, you can check our site schoolhouseconnect.com to see what is available to you locally. There's a map that you can click on if you look at Find a Support Group. You can also connect with an ambassador who can kind of tell you what else is available through TOS. So that's a really wonderful thing to do. Next slide, please. Christine, who's hosting our webinar today, is also one of our podcast hosts. Like I mentioned, she works together with several other Canadian homeschoolers like Stephanie and Kristen Stewart, who will be popping out here soon, to offer resources, support, and community, especially for Canadian homeschoolers. So they can tell you more about it, or you can check out the Canadian Schoolhouse. And I have to tell you, I love this site so much, even though I don't live in Canada. I hope everyone visits the Canadian Schoolhouse to see what is offered there. There are so many great ideas, and it's a beautiful site. So check out the Canadian Schoolhouse no matter where you live. Next slide, please. The Old Schoolhouse wants to support you all the way through homeschooling high school. We have some especially excellent resources for you as you help your child determine what's next after high school. So I hope you're getting a theme here. We really want you to not feel alone. We think community is important. We are here to be that community for you and enfold you in as many ways as we can. And that includes high school. You can tap into this homeschool college directory for colleges that our homeschool community has determined are homeschool friendly. There's also articles that will be of special interest to you if you are homeschooling a high schooler or will be soon. And we've also, the next slide shows that we've also partnered with the College Options Foundation to offer a national academic competition specific to the homeschool community. So that's registration is open for that now, and I believe the competition begins November 1. So you can go to nacregistration.com to check out that opportunity and to be part of our community serving homeschool high schoolers. Next slide. This is my last one. You can check into the Facebook community for schoolhouseteachers.com. You can make new friends here, get encouraged for academic, household, and personal challenges. You can join the group for interaction with other moms and dads who understand and can offer fresh ideas, ask questions about homeschooling, share your experiences, and gather new insights, all in a private Facebook group filled with homeschooling parents just like you. So that is not everything. I'd love to just keep talking for hours because there's so much more to say about community and just, oh, God is so good to give us what we need. And sometimes it's in different ways. Sometimes He'll provide a neighbor, or maybe your church has other homeschoolers that you can tap into community. Everyone's community is going to be a little different. So mine was partly in person and partly online, and the Old Schoolhouse was a huge part of that. So I hope you your homeschool community and check out some of these resources and kind of build yourself up and keep yourself encouraged throughout your new homeschool year.
And this all that's why I love this company, because I mentioned probably a few times now, you're probably sick of hearing me say it, but I was the black sheep of the family where I was the only one homeschooling. I the only one who thought this was best for my children. And so I was going it alone, or so I thought. And then, all you had to do was look and you found the community. And I was so grateful for schoolhouseteachers.com. I just thought it was just a curriculum site, but it's so much more than that. And yeah, as you mentioned, that Schoolhouse Teachers community is so much more. It's just, we don't just talk about Schoolhouse Teachers. People just, hey, how do you do this with, well, my 5-year-old just doesn't do well with this, and you're stuck on something. Those mamas will jump right in and help. And it's so great. And then having the blogging site, the podcast now is so great and encouraging. And the magazine is my favorite. Just to have something to read and to just be uplifted and encouraged and just connected to resources where, I may not come across it, but it's right there for you. Like at Homeschooling Finds, it's just right there for you. Things that you may not have had the time to search for, because I know I do not have hours and hours to sit on Google and search for things that I might want to do with my kids. And so I'm so grateful for these resources that are there presented for me and for you who are listening and getting ready to plan your school year. So definitely, I hope you are taking notes, you're jotting these down. We're going to have all these links on our blog posts that we will share with you. So, but yeah, definitely take them, jot them down. They're in the chat as well, in the comments. And so click on them, save, bookmark them, and visit regularly. Thank you so much, Heidi, for sharing all of this and for your words of wisdom, of course, and for sharing a little bit about yourself too.
It's a joy to be here.
Awesome. So we will take a short break. Before I do that. Do a little break. I'm just gonna say, pop in the comments. Tell us where you're watching from, and tell us where you are with your homeschooling journey. If you're still having questions, you've got questions, pop them in the comments right now, and or just say hi, and let us see who's watching. So we will be right back in one moment. Okay, so we're ready to, yeah, I hope you enjoyed those little myths that we shared. And I hope by now, by day 3, you have overcome those myths that we heard about and we talked about on day 1. And some of those were some of the other myths that we hear about homeschooling. They are not true. So I thought that would be fun to have a little chuckle at. So yeah, we're gonna move on to session 3. So I'm gonna invite Steph Morrison of the Canadian Schoolhouse to join me right now. Hi, Steph.
Hello, Christine.
And we are going to be talking about remembering your why. So we're talking about how to stay on track. So one of the things is we need to remember why we started homeschooling. So some of those ideas that we talked about on day 1, you're going to have to revisit that. And then we want to make sure we set some goals for ourselves. So you're going to help us do that.
Yeah. So the remembering why. So again, on day 1, I kind of talked about that, and I talked a little bit about my experience on why I chose to homeschool, and so a little bit about me and my homeschooling life so far and where I am. So I'm in Saskatchewan, Canada, and I am a mother. I'm a mother of 3. I have a 29-year-old, which is not being homeschooled. I did homeschool him that 1 year, and like his grade 6 year. And that was a big part of my why when my other 2 boys were born, who are now 15 and 12. That was my big why on why I homeschooled. My oldest son had such a hard time in school, really, really as many kids experience, a mass education system like that just cannot attend to all the different learning styles. And the way my oldest son's mind worked was like completely not in line with that. And I didn't want that experience for my other boys. It wasn't a for sure thing. Although now that they're older, I can see that like at least one of them for sure would have been very much the same, if not both of them. So my why then was a lot for the quality education. So I knew that my son, I actually took him out and homeschooled him for that 1 year. And kind of the deciding factor was like, could he learn any less at home with me than he could in school? Because just his behavior issues in school and just the struggles he was having at actually completing any work were really disruptive for him learning, obviously. So it was definitely for quality education and so that my children could have the freedom to learn in the way that their brain worked best. And now I really, as I say, what really motivates me, my big why is my boy's future, and very much connected to purpose, that vision and purpose of what God has for their life. And it's very hard to figure that out and to pursue that when you have so many hours in school, right? You actually have more working out or waking hours in school than you do with your own family, or than you do have free time. So it's very important for that reason. And I would say that's my big why. The future of my kids, that's my big why. I know that God has a plan for them, and I want to be able to experience that with them. And actually even just experience that educational life with them is so rewarding. It can be difficult, but isn't parenting difficult?
Yes, overall, yeah.
It is. And it wasn't even that long ago, as far as, I've been homeschooling, in the homeschooling mindset for 15 years easily, and maybe a little bit longer if I think about time with my other son. But it is, I find parenting is actually easier because they don't have this constant influence of other kids. And it's not that other kids are bad, but should that be your main influence? Right.
That's right.
I've got so much stories, testimony to share, just how God has really enlightened me to that reality that kids being raised by other kids, like happens when you're in a classroom with 30 other kids and there's one or maybe two teachers, right? Who is going to be your biggest influence? It's not going to be the teachers. So on that thought, the why is very important. So, my why being, I'm really focused on my kid's future, and I've got a 15-year-old. Right. So he's kind of getting near the end of this education with me anyway, or this education that I'm guiding. And I really want to put things in his learning time, and even his leisure time. I want to put things in his learning time that I see is okay. Even if he doesn't see that, because kids aren't always see, and if my kids had their own way, they would not be doing their learning during the day. I want to say that with some, I've heard some parents say it, and there just may be somebody that's watching live, watching the recording. I have heard a number of parents say that that oh, well, my kid will be fine in public school. Like, I'd love to homeschool them, but I have this and this and this, and as a barrier. And there are barriers, totally are. I've had many barriers myself, and I've just been able to overcome them to still continue homeschooling. It's not easy. Just because you make the choice doesn't mean, oh, well, now it's easy to educate your kids all the way through. It's not. We actually, as homeschoolers, we continue to make that choice again and again and again. But that thought of, look at that, I lost my train of thought. Sometimes I think I should really write notes more and just be more methodical. But I'm really trying to share. So it was something about sharing with you that are watching, right? So your kid will be okay. They will be okay. I went to public school. Christine went to public school. We're okay. We turned out okay. But if I was homeschooled, and if I was able to realize some of those things in my life and pursue some of those interests in more of those formative teenage years, especially, then I would have been a lot more, I wouldn't have been as rebellious. I mean, for me, I was such a great kid up until about grade 8. Grade 7, 8, I started to, turn a little bit. And then high school and on, I was just completely rebellious, learned a lot about drinking, learned a lot about drugs. I was pregnant at 16, right? So, then that wasn't planned, right? That was just the lifestyle I was leading then. And so, I mean, kids are going to be okay. And whatever experience we've had in the past helps us in the future. But wouldn't it be better? So kids are going to be okay. And actually, kids are really resilient. I hear some of the things kids have had to endure, or more so adults, that they had to endure as kids. And I'm like, I am like in awe that you have overcome that and you've got to where you are. So certainly they will be okay. And I've also heard people say that you know, that they tried homeschooling, especially with the whole pandemic homeschooling kind of thing. And so I've heard a number of parents say, yeah, we tried that, but yeah, my kids really didn't like it. And I have to say my kids don't like it either. Like they'd rather do something else. And I know you can attest to that, Christine. Like your kids like, all right, let's do learning. This is so awesome.
Yeah, no. Yeah, they don't. Yeah.
I have not heard many homeschooling parents say that their kids are excited. Now, there may be some courses that they're excited in.
Yes, it depends on the subject.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because I'll tell you, my one kid always wants to do science every single day because that's what he enjoys, and I'm like, that's no. You got to learn everything else. And so, yeah, we grudgingly take the math book, but that's across the board. I don't know very many kids who like math, so it happens at public school and at homeschool. So
yeah, it does. So I just like make that really clear to all that you that are watching, and maybe you're in that time right now where you're not sure if you want to homeschool and if that's right for your family, and only you can choose that. So don't let us sway you as to, but this is you're watching this for a reason, right? You're staying here watching this for some reason, and maybe just to be able to make a decision or to be able to figure out how to get started. And so now I'm just going to segue into that part that is the main focus of what I wanted to share is about goal setting. And that is a really great way to get into into the mindset of why you're homeschooling, and lots of different reasons. How I said my reason to begin with was different than my reason now, and it's actually changed over the years, right? So I've been maybe doing the formal education for like 7. I probably started around 7 with my older son, so that would be like 8 years. And throughout that 8 years, I've just come to different perspectives about what I'm doing in their life. So that's where you can come from. Okay, what are you doing? What is the focus either that your kids need, or it could be what you as a parent need and feel is your role in their life as the guidance in their life, right? As that person that's helping them get through the childhood and to be successful in whatever they want to do as an adult. So planning is not just about your courses. I mean, that's really good too. So I'm going to share, so Heidi talked about this a little bit, the homeschool planner. The Hey Mama homeschool planner.
Smart Mama.
Smart Mama. Sorry. The name was wrong there. So this is, I mean, I'm showing like slide. So I think it's like 120 pages ish. And it has monthly things. It has monthly calendars. It's great. It's an awesome planner available digitally on the Old Schoolhouse store. I think for around $35 US. And we can get a link for that in the comments here. But through this section, so as you can see, I'm on slide 92, so it's around page 92. This is where all the goal setting is starting, and I really like setting goals on this vast life that we have, all these different areas of life. So you can see you've got educational, right? So those are educational goals, like where do you want to be this year? Where do you want your kids to be? And this could, depending on the age of your kids, this could be your kids filling this out, or you're filling it out with the goal, with the mindset that it's for your child. So just depending either their ages or what you want to do. I mean, I can still see doing this for a teenager, even though they should be writing down some of the goals themselves. I can see doing this for my teenager and just writing down these areas where I see it, just after prayerful consideration and just time with God, and really focusing on what Cruz's, so that's my teenage son, Cruz, what Cruz's qualities are and what I'm seeing and where he's going in the direction and what his interests are, right? It's really helpful for me to do this, and then for him to do it, because goal setting is really helpful in all areas of your life, like when you get into adulthood. So would be almost like a learning assignment. Okay, let's set your goals out. And I haven't had my kids do this every year, but I've had them do it some years. And I think it's something so I do goals though every year. But it is something I think as they're getting older now that I will probably have that as just part of their learning every year. So you can say this in educational, spiritual, physical, personal talents, life skills, finance, relationally. And if you don't have everything for all of those areas, then that's fine too. The next one here is semester goals. So it's all those same type of areas, but now you've got the long-term goals for the year. And now from those long-term goals, cut it down to semester goals, right? Whatever. So quarterly, I actually do goals myself personally. I tend to do goals quarterly. So I do them yearly. I have my list of great yearly goals, and I write it I actually have it right here beside me, not that I plan to show this, but I write it in a book like this. And I have, I forget how many years ago I started this, but I've had this book for a number of years, and I write in here those yearly goals, and I write them not specifically this, but there is about 5 or 6 areas of my life I write that on. And then I break it down to quarterly goals. And then I will also go and break it down to monthly goals. And I usually don't get too much far where I actually intentionally write it on a daily thing, but I'm keeping those goals in mind. So that is something you can do. And I'm just going to go and think of this as your whole homeschooling why, right? So write this down. What's your yearly goals for what you want to achieve in your family life? And that educational could actually be for everybody. I have a life motto of always be learning, right? Our learning does not stop with formal education. I am constantly learning all the time, right? We're always finding something new to learn, whether it's job related because we need to learn to do something new, or it's just interest related. And that's what we should be instilling in our kids as well. Okay, so you're learning academic stuff, you're learning this stuff because you need to know how to read well, write well, and think well. And that covers really all the subjects. We learn history. We need to know about the history, to know about the past for the present. Geography, we need to know about the land and the world around us, right? All that kind of gives us that real good, just that basic thing. We want to think well, write well, and read well. I think I did them in a different order that time. I threw myself off. So we want to be able to do that on the big scale of what do we want to see in our lives on the yearly? What do we want to see our lives on again, I kind of do it on a quarterly basis. So, like January, February, March, and then, right. So quarter, every three months kind of idea. And then this page is the next page here that I thought was really helpful as far as the planning. And there are some more pages through this. Again, there's like 120 pages. So, and they're not all planning, but they're really, really helpful. These pages in here are really helpful, especially as we get near the end of just organizing and making sense and actually writing down and really defining what you want for your family. And I'm just going to leave it at that for your family. It's not just about the education part, but that's going to be part of it. For me, we are living out on 50 acres. We've got some animals that we are constantly growing. So me and my yearly goals and even my quarterly goals, like I'm writing down things about the animals I want to have. I've actually got a Kune pig. If you don't know what they are, you just go and search them out. Kune, Kune. This is just a heritage pig that I've wanted for, I don't know, probably at least 5 years when I first heard about it. They've got really distinct qualities as far as pigs go, and they really, really good. They're a little bit of a smaller size than massive ones. So like just think about the things that you want in your life and the things you desire. for yourself and your lifestyle and what you want your family to have. And this is all part of it. And then actually your education really ties into that. I mentioned a little bit on that purpose before and I've thought of that a few times, Christine. I'm like, that'd be so awesome. Your kids could come out here. You could all come out for a visit, and then they could have like a goat milking class. I could teach them how to
See,
goats, right? And
I'd be open.
just for fun. You may not have that as a goal, but it would be just for fun. So anyway, just that to be that it's like all our families are so unique. So you can't even really go off, well, yeah, I see this other parent has got to focus on classic literature and that they're delving deep into ancient history and that they're right. And those things are all actually good at some point in educational life. Good to touch on all of those. But is that what you need this year? So figure out what you need as a family, what each of your kids individually need, and write those down. This educational objectives, you can see we're going into all these different subjects. And this is where you're going to focus a little bit more maybe on courses. So you're going to write down courses, curriculum that maybe you found and you're considering. Maybe you might want to write down, you've got your educational objectives for, math or language arts, science and health. So science and health is probably a good one. I mean, math and language arts are kind of easy because curriculum goes on a level or grade, and you just kind of pick, okay, where are we? Even if you're starting homeschooling and you're coming from the public school, you can still kind of really get a good idea either from the curriculum provider or just from somebody else. Where are we going to start at? Because sometimes it's not always grades. Most curriculum is, but sometimes it's on levels. So science and health, for instance, that's a great area to really put some thought in and some goal setting in, because that I find, for me anyway, really changes year to year. Now there's science where we can do that. I love like unit studies. We do a lot of unit studies. So I don't often pick one curriculum. Although this year, because I wanted to try out the interactive schoolhouse teachers, and they have the 5th grade science there. And so we are doing that 5th grade science. So it's actually a overall curriculum and of covering all these different areas of science. So that is actually I wouldn't say the first time, but it's been a few years since we've actually just done a kind of year-long curriculum in science, but we have covered science and so many other different areas just with more unit studies on botany, unit studies on like astronomy and, just different areas, growing food. We're doing a unit study right now and it's called Summer, and we go out to the garden.
Nice.
We talk about food and identify. We don't just talk about food though, but I do with a real purpose. We go out to the garden and I'm telling them, and then I'm also quizzing them. What plant is that? And how do we get the seeds from that one? That one I'm getting more learning myself. I've done some seed saving in the past, but not a whole lot. So this year, just my learning is very focused on saving seeds from the garden so I can use those next year. And that's something that's just going to come into play with my kids. That would be, that's one of my goals for them to be very, very knowledgeable on is growing food, growing crops, growing forage food for our animals. All that is very important in our lifestyle, but that's not going to be important for a lot of people.
For everybody. Yeah.
Good to have a general knowledge of that, which kind of would come in a general science course. But one of the things I wanted to share was, actually going to find this link I had here. So we had an article that we put on the Canadian Schoolhouse, and it is a back to school. So really appropriate to this time of year. And I think we maybe published this one last year, maybe even the year before. I think it was maybe last year, but there are actually a couple PDFs in there for your kids to make goals. So the article is mainly focused on goal setting, a little bit, just encouragement for getting back into getting excited to get back into regular learning. If you take time off, we actually don't. So I don't get the whole excitement.
Yeah, me neither.
but it's still a great time of year to do this stuff, whether you actually homeschool all year round or not. I mean, we do kind of tend to, I focus just on the beginning of the year, so 2023, right? And so that's part of each individual family. How does that work for you to think and make goals for your year? It's not necessarily going to be right now, right? It may, like for me, I'd rather make goals looking into the end of December. It just naturally for me myself, that's when I've done it. So that's kind of when I think about the goals and what we want for the education part or anything for my boys. So that article has some really cool PDFs in there, and some scripture. So I actually, when I thought about this topic, so one of my favorite scriptures, Habakkuk 2:2, about goal setting, because I always want to look to the Bible and say, where is that backing up what I want to do? And actually, even before I really had a relationship at all with God, I was very into self-improvement and personal development, and read lots and lots of those kind of books. So anything in that area is really talking about goal setting, right? Setting your goals, writing down what you want. So this is what God is telling us in Habakkuk 2:2. He says, and the Lord answered me. And the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tablets, paper. That he may run that readeth it. So that you're going to write down your vision, and it's going to be in your mind. There's something that happens when you write something down, when you write down your goals. So whether it's yearly goals, quarterly goals, semester goals, monthly goals, weekly goals, right? Whatever works for you. I've actually done it all. I've done all those different things. And for me, it's like, okay, I like to focus on yearly, break it down into quarterly. And then I do monthly work goals, but I don't necessarily actually do that for every part of my life, but I do for every part of my life, which includes my children's lives. I do write down these yearly and then quarterly goals. And I actually just wanted to read a couple of those scriptures because I thought that was great. So there's that one, Habakkuk 2:2. It's actually 2:2 and 2:3. So I'll actually read 3 there, because that's actually good too. For the vision is yet for the appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. So then another one of my favorite ones, Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. And that, again, keeping that vision. And what is that vision? That's what you see the future to be. So I also like, I'll read this one too. So this is just another scripture in that article link there. The ready for back to school. So commit thy works unto the Lord, and thy thoughts shall be established. Proverbs 6:3. And I also have one verse that is also very, and where is it? So it's at Proverbs again. How great Proverbs is, right? Proverbs again. And I love it so much that I got creative and I made a wood sign. But can I do this back?
Yeah.
So a desire fulfilled is a tree of life. And that is very much that God puts desires on our heart.
I love that.
Him, if we are in tune to his word, and we are prayerfully, uniting with him regularly, he is going to put the desires on your heart. So if you have a real desire, and so homeschooling, that's definitely a call from God. Although I really believe that anybody that wants to follow God, has this awesome responsibility that you can really, really enjoy. It may seem intimidating, but you can enjoy it so much to be able to educate your kids. It's actually it's a responsibility, but it's a blessing to be able to have that influence in your children's lives, to guide their education is really a blessing. And it doesn't, I can't say that every moment of every day I think that way. Even today, even after this long, I have moments where it's like, this is hard. My kids have attitude. I've got a lot of other things to do, right? Barriers. There's barriers in the way. And I just have to go to God and like, is this still something you want me to do, or should I just send them away? Because I'm going to use some time here that I don't have to devote to my kids' education. And oddly enough, it's not odd at all, is it? That was silly for me to say that. Rightfully so, when I seek God more. And I think if I look back and was able to assess that, it's when I haven't been making time reading the Bible every day, when I haven't been making time praying, when I haven't been making time like studying his word. When that has got a little bit slack in my life, then I find that I'm losing touch with what is really meant for me. And so I know that God has put the desire to homeschool my kids on my heart. And I know that he's put the desire for me to guide them in whatever way. I also know that God has put desires on my children's heart. And it's my job as the parent, mine and my husband's job as parents, to bring that out in them, to be able to help them see what is God's desires and then what is worldly desires. Because I have a lot of experience with worldly desires as well. And they are not nearly as satisfying, even though I have achieved some of them. They are not anywhere near as satisfying as the ones that I know are from God. And some of them are. So where we live right now, we've just moved here a year ago. It is a very, very big testimony of God's leading in our life, and the desire to put on our life to be able to live this kind of lifestyle was a really long time coming. It was a desire for years and years and years. And now we're here, but yet he's just putting more and more desires on our heart. And I find so much related to my kids. And I think maybe just because they're getting older, right? This being able to, being able to really focus on what the why is, why I'm educating them, why I want them to go in a certain way, and what God wants for them, right, is just a continual practice. It's a continual desire on my heart to be constantly seeking what is right for me, what is right for everyone in my family. So, so I think that's all I had to share overall on that topic.
I two things. I saw some things in the comment, and that one planner sheet that was on the screen, that is part of the Smart Mama Planner. And so we put the link across the screen and in the comments just in case you were interested in grabbing one. But also I wanted to add that if you are a schoolhouseteachers.com member, which, by the way, we're having a promotion right now where you can get a free tote with your membership. So go ahead to schoolhouseteachers.com and check that out. But you get a copy of that planner for free as part of your membership. So another bonus right there. So if you were considering schoolhouseteachers.com, now is the time to go and get that. And one of the questions that came through was about the high school diploma and how how homeschoolers can get a high school diploma. And I thought you and I could probably tackle that very, very briefly. Of course, just so you know that Steph and I do live streams every other week on the Canadian Schoolhouse Facebook page. We talk about all kinds of things like that topic, specifically about high school homeschooling your high schoolers. And we've talked about that high school diploma. So maybe you want to throw out some ideas, because I know we've talked about it before. So I know it's so I thought let's just tackle that right now.
Yeah, so a high school diploma is not necessary. So first of all, let's throw the diploma out the window. Like, it was very useless for my son for instance, and not just useless because of what he ended up doing and is doing in his life now. I mean, it's useless because it really didn't show that he was very well educated. I had my kids spelling better. I had my kids reading better, writing better, and thinking better than my son did when he got that high school diploma. And colleges and universities realize that, because you need more than a high school diploma to get into the majority of course, especially if we're talking university. It doesn't matter if you have a high school diploma if the student does not have the it's not the intellect, right? But if they don't have the training, if they don't have the grades, I guess we can use grades, right? So if they don't have the grades in certain courses, they are still not going to get into, they're going to find it really hard to get into certain programs. That's just how it is for anybody. It is actually not any harder for a homeschooler to get into a university or college than it is for somebody in that went to public school or an accredited school that gives a high school diploma. Now, that being said, there are places, so online institutions, that are able to give a actual diploma. If for whatever reason you felt that's the way I got to go, you can also write a GED. I've had friends do that. Their kids do that. So a GED, a general education diploma. Anyway, you get books and you study those books. For the most part, your kids are going to know them already. But you get books, you study those books, and then you have to go, from my understanding, if it's still the same way, you have to go to a specific place. So to be a major city centers, and you would write the GED. You would get a mark with that, and then you would get some kind of little, right, diploma. You would get a diploma, assuming that the student passed. And what I actually thought too, so what you do need, though, what is important is a transcript. Record keeping is really important. That's another thing for goal setting too. Oh, that was even a note I had here, that so by setting goals, right, you can track your progress and measure the success. So by setting goals, then you can also track your, right, it's part of that tracking. So setting goals is part of the tracking, but also writing down the courses. And this, so I'm going to pop this actually back on here, because I think it's right near here. But this it's just one example of what you could have for here we go. So this is talking about creating an academic transcript. So this is the Hey Mama planner. And then this next page is somewhere where you can write this down. So a transcript is nothing more than this, right? A transcript you get from your high school. So you have a high school diploma, but I don't actually think it's the high school diploma that matters. I think you need to have the transcript is what a college or university will want. I don't even think that the diploma is just some fancy paper. They want to see what courses they've taken. So particularly in the last, 3-4 years of education. So the high school part, they want to know the course name, what the dates are. So I do this. So I am a Schoolhouse Teachers member. And with that, you get a transcript. And there's a few of those out there. But this one is Apple Core. So Apple Core is, and that's where I do most of my tracking. I also do it on paper because I like that. I like having it more, I don't know, the writing down part, right? And so the tracking. So what I'm doing in there is I'm writing down the courses that sometimes that I'm planning for. Not that I plan too far ahead, but I put them in Apple Core, and they have, a lot of set things. Sometimes I have to customize them. It's a little bit more, I guess it's not really US based. Like, I'm in Canada, as I said, but it would be appropriate for anybody, no matter the country you're from, because it's all, from my understanding, somebody feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, that any place you might go in any other country as well, or if you're a student in a country and you want to get into some kind of post-secondary higher education institution, this is what they want to see. They want to see the courses you've done. They may have you take some kind of test some kind of maybe like a just to see that the student has achieved that. And that, again, that happens for students that have a high school diploma.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I'm going to remove this now. And yeah, there's so much to talk about. So I don't know if something is, we could do a whole another hour talking about on all the other options, but is there anything that really comes to mind as one of the good methods you've heard that homeschoolers do?
Well, I mean, what's happening more and more is that colleges and universities are recognizing that there are more and more homeschoolers out there, and they are making ways for homeschoolers to enter into post-secondary school. And so you just have to, call up your local university and college even before you reach that. So as you're going through your planning your high school years with your teenager, go to those college fairs or university fairs and go and ask questions, because they could have a program designed specifically for homeschoolers already and you just didn't know about it. And for the most part, we've interviewed quite a few already on the Canadian Schoolhouse that they just wrote the entrance exam, and they were, as long as they were able to prove that they had the basic knowledge to handle a college type level class, then I mean you're good. You really don't need to be afraid of first of all pursuing the high school, teaching homeschool through the high school years. You can totally go all the way to grade 12, and and just equip. And for me, it's just getting them on track, because I always remember the fact that I didn't know when I finished high school what exactly I was supposed to do with my life. And so I let other people tell me, teachers and all of that stuff tell me, oh, you should be a teacher, you should be this, you should be that. And I spent so much money going through university, kind of feeling my way out. Well, maybe this is not for me. I did business management. I'm like, I don't really like this anymore. And so I jumped from different categories until I found something that I stuck with. But why do that to your kids when you can prepare them from home, so when they reach that point when they're ready to go to high school or college, they know they know for sure, I love doing this, I want to do this as a job, and they go for it. And so definitely, and that's going to help you know which college or university you need to go to, because certain if you want to be a mechanic or whatever, you got to go to this specific college for that kind of training. So at least you'll know that you're going to go ask questions there for this particular. So you're not scrambling. Oh no, it's grade 12. My kid graduated. What are they going to do? Where do I go? You already know. You will know. Your kids will know, and it'll be such an easier journey. And I'm guaranteed, by the time, if you've got young ones right now, by the time they're ready, there's going to be so much more opportunities. Because Steph and I believe that there's this whole movement coming. A lot of people are going to be homeschooling by the time. So the doors are opening already. So don't be discouraged.
I will say with those homeschooling numbers too, that homeschooling is actually only growing over. I'm going to say 20 years. I should update myself on the stats. Not that those stats long ago are. So it is only growing incrementally, small little growth, but it's never receded. Like it has never, the numbers have never really gotten less. They've always just been growing little by little each year. And then of course we've had a big growth, right? For obvious reasons over the last couple of years. So there were a lot of people that did end up this. So they did homeschooling. The parents were educating their kids, not just doing public school at home, but they took on the education of their children and then put their kids back in school. But the numbers were still, I know in Canada, it was definitely pretty much doubled. And I believe that would be the same numbers for the US. And I think that was pretty standard around the world. I was kind of looking at some stats recently about that, and just internationally, home education is growing. So that's just, again, homeschooling is a move of God to connect to strengthen marriages and families. That is a quote I heard. That's from Steve Demi. Just something that I mentioned the other day as well. And I also wanted to know, could we get that link to the homeschoolcollegedirectory.com? Put it in the comments there, because we should mention that. And this is so if you're just starting out and your kids are young, maybe you're homeschooling or thinking of homeschooling even your high schoolers, because that is a really getting more popular, that homeschoolers are not sending their kids to high school, which has been a pretty common trend in past years, but also that that there are many parents that do not want their kids to be in high school, do not want their kids to be in school, and they happen to be in high school. So this homeschool college directory, here's the link on here. You'll also find the link in the comments, but it is a listing. It is a directory of colleges and universities and some other post-secondary institutions that are specifically vying for homeschooled students, because they are generally better in a lot of different ways. And I won't go on too long about that, because I really could. But we have, we've had Trinity Western University, which is a university out on the West Coast here in Canada. And so I'm just using that as one example. And I think a lot of universities and colleges are the same, that they have a page that's specifically homeschool admissions. There's not a different, it's not like they have a different course or program, but they just realize that students coming from a home education background are going to have different things to show what their education has been to them. So they have admissions personnel, admissions people that are just knowledgeable about that. So they have a specific, process, I guess, that may be a little bit different when you can just go through your guidance counselor at your school and go with your parents, and here's I'm going to this school, right? It's just a little bit different that way, but not in any way more limited. So wherever stage you're at, go and look at all those colleges. And that's not even all of them, but go and look at that list of colleges and universities that are very welcoming to home educated students. Almost more than, I'm just going to say it, they're even more welcoming, because they generally make their numbers look better, right? Because they will generally homeschooled students, because they've already been individually, they're more individual learners, right? More self-motivated learners. They just tend to finish the courses more. They have more student success. They have, right? So it's, and that's what generally a post-secondary school wants to do, right? They want to be able to train people and see them graduate from their programs, which doesn't happen all the time.
It's true. It's true. Well, I hope that answered your question. We're happy to take more questions, so you can keep sending them over, or reach out to us on social media. And yeah, I hope you are feeling more confident about making your decision to homeschool. And so we're going to switch over to session 4. Thank you so much, Steph, for sticking around. And I'm going to invite Kristen back to wrap up this day 3. Hi, Kristen.
Hi, just was finding my unmute button.
Yeah. And we are going to just wrap up by talking about avoiding popular or common homeschool mistakes. So, and for the immediate one that I think about is trying to do it like public school. So I'm pretty sure you have that on your list, so you go.
Well, there was really 2 main ones that I was thinking about, and that was one of them.
Yeah.
Like thinking that your child has to sit. We talked about this quite a bit yesterday or the day before. One of our previous sessions, we talked about letting the kids move around. And so one of the common mistakes that I think people find is they bring their kids home from school, and then they want their kid to sit at the table for however many hours and work through their book work. And then they wonder, well, my kid isn't enjoying this, or this isn't really working for us, but that's not what it has to look like. And then the other common mistake, I don't know if you'd call this a mistake, but something I would suggest avoiding is the comparison
Yes.
trap, like on social media. I mean, I follow a lot of homeschoolers because I am a homeschooler. So my Instagram feed is a lot of homeschoolers. And if you let it, that can make you feel like, oh, I should be doing this, or I don't have a fancy enough homeschool room, which I don't have a homeschool room at all, or oh, well, that curriculum looks really good, even though I already bought all our curriculum. Now I think I should, there's so many different good curriculums out there. You could be constantly changing your mind if you let yourself get sucked into what everyone else is doing, and then you waste money. So really just don't get sucked into what everyone else is doing, kind of what Steph was just talking about. Remember your why and your own goals, and just, stay your course for your family, for what God has called you to do and asked you to do, and not worry so much about what others around you are doing. It's fine to look for advice when you need advice and get ideas, but don't let it make you feel like you are not doing enough, or, that you need to do things differently than what is working for your family.
Yeah. And that social media for any aspect of your life is just a trap at some point, because you do fall into that comparison trap. And while it's good to do your research and, seek out the help of others, you really do have to just focus on what works best for your family. And because that's what it is. It's you and your kids. At the end of the day, it's you and your kids, and you have to be happy teaching. You have to be comfortable teaching what you're teaching, and your kids have to be loving what they're receiving. So now, like we mentioned earlier, they're not going to love every bit of information, but that doesn't mean that, oh, this isn't working and I got to get rid of it. So, because otherwise no one will ever do this specific science experiment. Nobody will ever do this topic in math, and nobody will ever do, right? You gotta make sure you're covering all your bases, and then do it in the way that works best, and make sure you're creating an environment that is going to be specific to your family, and then never, making it look like public school. You don't have to ever be stuck behind a desk, because whoever wants to be stuck behind a desk, even those of us who work at a desk, don't like to be stuck, right? So just remember to be flexible. And you mentioned the curriculum. You're not stuck doing, you don't have to check off those boxes if it's not working. It's hard though, because especially when you paid money for the curriculum, it's hard not to. But again, there was one, I had this huge set, grade 1 stuff that I was saving, and we loved it with my first one, and I was so excited to do it with my second boy. And here we go, we were ready to do it, and he was just not into any. I'm like, look, your brother loved this book. Don't you want it? Don't you want it? And he's like, I don't want to read that. Can I just read that book? And then, and see, that was me. And so that's one of the mistakes that I made, is having my desires, wanting my desires to be also the desires of my children. That is not how that works. They have their own desires, and you need to have a conversation about it. And so we had to stop and say, okay, well, this curriculum is gonna have to go out the window, because this is not gonna work. And so we had to custom build, and we kind of still do that to this day for my second guy, because he learns a lot differently than my first one. And that brings me to my other point, that every kid is unique. So don't think that, once you got one set, it's not going to work for everyone, because everyone has a different learning style. So
I was just thinking that when you were talking, that's another thing, is that don't assume that what you had for your oldest child is going to work for your youngest child. And if it doesn't, don't assume that, oh, this child needs to be in school then because I can't teach them, or, just assume that your multiple children are going to need different things. And something else I've said to moms, you know, when homeschooling moms, there are hard days. Like we would be giving an untrue picture if we said every single day is easy and loving and beautiful. There are so many of those days, but there are hard moments too. And I do encourage parents when they say that, oh, it just feels hard. I'm going to tell you that it probably feels hard at school too. Like your child probably doesn't want to learn it at school either, you know, and there's hard days there and there's hard days at home. But the beauty is that you get to do it together when you're home. And like what you said, not every kid wants to learn everything. We went through that this year with grade 5 math, long division. You know, this is so hard.
That one brought tears.
This is hard. You're not wrong. This is a hard thing. And for all the different years that I taught grade 5 math in public school, this was a hard concept. Like lots and lots, if not every kid has a hard time with long division the first few times they do it. But yes, it's hard, but we're not just going to walk away from it, because this is one of those things that we have to learn, and we're going to learn we can do hard things. And we're not going to assume that this means we can't homeschool, because this was going to be hard for you in public school too. This is just something that we need to practice. And you're here with me and we can practice it as much as we need. Like we don't have a deadline. We don't have a timeline. So not quitting at the first, resistance or the first bump in the road would be another thing I would say.
Yeah, I have had people, and just because I just talk, I don't hold anything back. If you know who I am, I just talk. So then sometimes I will say, oh my goodness, this is so hard, and they're not getting this subject, and so it's been stressful. And then the first thing people say to me, because they're not part of the homeschooling community, so they're outsiders, so they're like, well, maybe you should send them to public school. Well, no, that's not the answer that I was looking for. And so I have to find it within me to remember my why and say, no, I'm going to stick through it. I just got to find a way to work around it. And there's always a way. There's always a solution. You just have to take a moment, a step back, and say, we're going to figure this out, and talk with your kids. Okay, yes, this was hard. It was hard for mommy, whatever subject it is. Hey, I had trouble with it. Be honest with them and say, I had trouble learning this, but I had to keep practicing. I had to keep learning. And so when they feel that you're part of this struggle, right? They're not alone in this struggle. They are going to feel a little bit more confident in sticking with it. And Steph's comment up here.
Oh yeah, Steph. I'm serious. I'm telling you, grade 5 math is the hardest math I ever taught, because in public school, because it cramps so much in. Like that long division is hard. Kids need more than a 10 lesson unit.
Oh, we kind of dragged it out over a year and a half, maybe, because we're like, take your time. And that's the thing with homeschooling too. Just because you're doing grade 5 doesn't mean you have to finish it from September to June or whatever the public school time goes to. If your child needs to have extra time to work on a particular subject, then you take that time and do it. And so they're not feeling the pressure. You're not feeling the pressure of like, oh my goodness, I'm still teaching this. I must be such a failure because I can't get my kid to understand this. That has nothing to do with it. It just means you need more time.
Right. And I was talking to someone about this. Yeah, I was just talking about this morning at a homeschool open house. I was saying, like, the homeschooling gives you the benefit of being able to teach to mastery, because you don't, even if you feel like it, because you like to check off boxes, you don't have to finish that book or whatever in a year. You get to teach to mastery. So you finish the unit and your student still doesn't understand double digit multiplication or long division, then don't move on. I mean, move on if they're too frustrated and you need a little break, move on and come back. But you don't have to be like, well, I guess we didn't get it. We're going to move on to the next thing. You get to teach to mastery. You can go back, do it again. You can find another way. I liked to tell Haley that if you're not getting it, if you're doing your best to understand, then mommy needs to find a different way to explain it. Because if you're listening to me, if you're doing your job of listening to me and paying attention and trying, and you don't understand, then I need to find a different way to explain it to you. So don't feel upset about it, because you're doing everything that you can do. And I'm going to figure out a different way to explain this to you and try to make it make sense, or we're just going to do it together, over and over a lot.
And another good point to bring up is that, hey, if you as a parent can't figure out the way to teach it, that's okay. Find somebody else who can. There's homeschooling co-ops that you can reach out to another parent. You could schoolhouseteachers.com. You could get a course on there for somebody else to teach you. Or there's other courses out there that you could just get another person, or YouTube. Get somebody on YouTube that find a video to explain long division. There's so many opportunities, so that you don't have to feel pressured that you have to teach every little thing. So if you're struggling with a subject, that's okay. That's okay.
This is like kind of off topic, but when you were saying about people telling you, oh, if it's hard, you should go back to school. I was thinking like, well, when I was a public school teacher and I was like struggling with certain kids, or like they weren't understanding, like no one was saying like, well, you should just send them home to homeschool. Like, that wasn't an option. So it's so funny that it's like, oh, it's hard, you should send them here. But like, that's not what we say at school. Like, oh, it's hard, so I guess you should just go home and try something different. Like,
right?
It's going to be hard, and I tell the kids, like, you're learning. The whole point is that you're learning something you don't already know.
That's right.
So you have to like stretch out of your comfort zone a little bit, and then eventually you will look back and you already know it. But the only way to ever learn anything is to do something hard. To try something you don't already know.
Get challenged, right? And that's where we're at right now. So my kids are grade 3 and grade 7. and so we're getting to the point where you're past 2 + 2 and writing the one sentence. It's like you got to write paragraphs now for my older one, and the other one's learning starting multiplication, just beginning multiplication, and it's like, oh, it's so hard. Well, yeah, because you're smart, so you got to get smarter, and it means that work is going to get more and more challenging, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. So yeah, your kids are going to complain at some point, because kids will be kids, and they're going to say things are hard, and you're going to find things that are hard, that difficult for you to teach, because maybe you didn't know how to do this, or you didn't know about this particular topic, but that's okay. You can educate yourself. And the best part that I like about homeschooling is that I learn alongside with my kids. And so when they see that, then they're a little bit more encouraged to say, okay, well, I don't feel like I have to do this on my own. Mom's learning with me. So, and it's a journey, and you make it fun. You say, okay, let's try it again. And you keep going.
Yep. And we get to say, you know what, at the end of the day, we love each other. We still love each other so much. And tomorrow is a new day. We'll try again. And we'll just keep trying until it doesn't feel so hard. And then you'll look back and you'll be like, I can't believe that I thought that was hard.
Right. And that's the thing too. I asked them, I'm like, when we have those hard moments, I'm like, do you guys want to go to public school? Because like,
I've been guilty.
Do you want to? Like, do you really want to? And then they're like, no. We like being home. We like being with you. We like learning from you because you're patient with us. Thankfully,
most times.
so that was reassuring to me. But I mean, your kids do appreciate the fact that you are able to, and maybe dad too is also helping, that you are having the opportunity to take that one-on-one, because they won't get that in public school. They won't get that one-on-one where they can really work on a skill to master a skill. That is something that you cannot do in public school. So
Right, because then it feels stressful every single year. So every year when that long division unit comes up, you're like, I don't know how to do this. But like if you get to master it, then the next year you're like, oh, okay, I remember how to do this. Or maybe a very quick refresher or something. But it's like, right, this isn't scary. I figured this out already.
Yeah. Yeah, Kristen's saying that they're working on writing complete sentences, and my son's not enjoying that. I'm with you there. It's like pulling teeth right now for my 6-year-old to write a complete sentence. But I know from experience from my older one, who also went through the same thing. Eventually, I didn't have to ask him; he just would write proper sentences. So I know you just got to push through, and you'll get there, and your kids will be fine. Your kids will be so smart and so fine.
And you're on nobody else's timeline. So if it doesn't, it's different, I guess, if it's like a behavior thing, like not doing something that they're capable of, but there's no rush, they'll get there. There's no rush, nobody's timeline.
Yeah. And that's a huge pressure off our shoulders when we don't have that pressure of time. And so, and this is why, part of the reason why we've chosen to do year-round schooling, because, if we do need to take a break, there's no pressure, because learning happens all the time. So we're not on that September to June schedule. So I don't feel like, oh, this is not done. So we just kind of work through books. Okay. And when we get to the end of that book, okay, that one's done. What's next? And so it's a whole lot more relaxing for all of us to go do things that way. So any other points that you may have thought of?
No, I don't think. I mean, I think we went off of topic a bit, but I think it mostly all wrapped into some mistakes to avoid.
Yeah. We're good. I think
we could talk about homeschool forever. So
yeah, and same here. And so I hope that as we wrap up, you can stay on and help me wrap up, Kristen. Right. But as we wrap up, I hope that we've helped you in some way and just encouraged you. I'm just going to put up the slide here. So our next steps for you, go ahead and start homeschooling. Share this with your friends. If you had friends who were also considering homeschooling, share these links so you can find the replays of all the 3 days on the YouTube, the Old Schoolhouse magazine YouTube channel, the Old Schoolhouse magazine Facebook page, and the homeschoolingfinds.com Facebook page. So whatever platform you have been watching on, you can share this link. Come back to it as well. And if you had some questions, or maybe you forgot something, these will be always here for you to find. And then connect with us. We've throughout the 3 days, we've given you some ways to connect with us. So I hope you jotted them down. You will be getting a follow-up email if you registered with us. Kristen, can you just add that blog post page that has our recap of the whole day? And hey, if you didn't register, you can register still, and you'll get the emails as well, and with all of the information where you can connect with us, and you can reply and let us know what you need. And then I'm just going to encourage you to check out schoolhouseteachers.com. I mentioned it earlier. We do have a promotion happening right now where you can get a free tote along with your membership, and that is running until August 31st. So you want to take advantage of that right now. Be sure to download the TOS app. So many great resources, and it is free. You're on the go. It's easy to take with you, and read through so many great articles on homeschooling, find homeschooling products, and subscribe to the Hey Mama Homeschool Show. That's another thing that you can listen to on the go while you're making dinner, while you're playing with the kids in the house. Just have it on in the background. We've got some great topics and encouragement there, as mentioned by Heidi. And so I think that was all that I had. Be sure to ask your questions. We do have giveaways, so if you haven't commented already, pop on and oh, I skipped over the giveaway slide. There we go. Pop on and say hi, where you're watching from. Tell us what your biggest takeaway was, maybe from the last 3 days or just for today. Let us know, and we'll be reaching out to those who have won these giveaways. So we'll be signing off for now, but we're always here if you ever need us. The Old Schoolhouse believes in homeschooling, and we are here to support you in whatever way we can. So God bless everyone. Thanks for watching.
Bye.